Hello everyone. We are going to look into writing equation in slope-intercept form. We have a couple different formats. One is looking at the graph, and then one is given a point, one is given 2 points. So first one is looking at a graph. When we look at a graph, there are two things we need to find, and first one is slope and then y-intercept. In order to find slope, we will define an integer coordinate and then find another integer coordinate and calculate our rise over run. In this case, our rise over run is only 1 over 1, so our slope is 1. Y-intercept is the intersection of the line with the y-axis, so this point right here would be my y-intercept coordinate. Y-intercept is x0, y2. The y-intercept value, b in this case, is going to be 2. After determining y, m, and b, we are going to be able to write the equation y is equal to mx plus b. In this case, m is 1, y is equal to 1x, 1 times x is x, plus b is 2. Here's our next example. Just like the previous one, I will need two things. One is my slope and then the y-intercept. In order to find the slope, we will identify nice points like this one where we would have integer coordinates. And it looks like the next integer coordinate is going to be all the way to here. So our slope is going to be up 5 over 4. So slope is 5 over 4. Y-intercept is the intersection of the line with the y-axis. In this case, it's -1. Our equation y is equal to mx plus b form will be y is equal to 5 over 4 x plus -1. Instead of writing plus -1, we're just going to write -1. Next example, similar style. We will identify a couple points to find our slope. It really doesn't matter which 2 points you use for the slope. Your slope will always be same. I'm going to try to use some 2 points that are a little bit farther apart from each other. We can see we would go up 2 over 6 to get from one point to another. So our slope is going to be 2 over 6. I can simplify this by 2, so our slope is actually going to be 1/3. And our y-intercept, intersection of the line with y-axis, is right here, so our b value is going to be -3. I can write my equation as y is equal to mx plus b. M is 1/3, x plus b is adding -3, which is -3. Here's the last example of this style. We will find the slope by looking at integer coordinates. It looks like one is here and the other one is all the way to here, and our slope is going to be up 5, left 3. So I will write my slope as up 5, that's +5, left 3 is -3. Our b, y-intercept, is intersection with the y-axis, is +1. Our equation y is equal to mx plus b turns into y is equal to m is -5 over 3 x plus 1. As you can see, instead of having the negative up front in the denominator, I brought it to the in front of the fraction and wrote 5 over 3, -5 over 3, because a positive value divided by negative value is -5/3. Now let's look at our next style. In this style, we have the slope given and we do not have a graph. And this style is useful whenever the points are huge or slope is very big or very small, where it would be very hard to determine visually on a graph. So we need an algebraic way to figure these out as well. And our slope formula is y is equal to mx plus b. And in this slope formula, there are 2 components we need to figure out. One is m, the other one is b value. If we can figure out m and b, we will be able to write our equation in y is equal to mx plus b form. It turns out that we were already given the m value, so I can write my equation the halfway. I call it halfway because there are two components and we already know one of it. And here's my b value. Next thing I want to do is to find the b value. Because we were given a point, in this point we have x coordinate and y coordinate. This point is a point that's on the line, therefore it should satisfy the equation of the line. We will be able to substitute x and y values into this equation here, and this will allow us to find the b value. If I put negative 20 for the y is equal to negative 6 times x is negative 9 plus b. Solving this equation for b will give us the b value. Negative 20 is equal to positive 54 plus b. If I have negative 20 is equal to 54 plus b, subtract 54 from each side, we will have negative 74 is equal to b value. This is a good example of how the y-intercept in this case is negative 74. We would have to have a huge graph to graph this one accurately, where the y-intercept, intersection with y-axis, is all the way down to negative 74. Anyway, we have found the two components we were looking for. It's the b value, and we already have the m value. We can write our equation as y is equal to negative 6x minus 74. Here's our next example. Same style. We have a slope given and we have a point given. In order to find our equation in y is equal to mx plus b form, I'm going to write the form first, mx plus b, and I'll substitute the m value. This will be writing the equation halfway. The other half is figuring out what the b value is going to be. By using this point in the equation, I'll be able to find the b value. When y is negative 5, x must be 10, 1/8 times 10 plus b. Now we have negative 5 is equal to 10 over 8 plus b. We will put this over 1 and do numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. We can also simplify 10 over 8. I can do that over here on the next step. Negative 5 is equal to 10 over 8 plus b. We can also subtract 10 over 8 from each side even without simplifying, but if we simplify, we will end up with smaller values. 10 and 8, they can both simplify by 2. This will be 5 over 4. So our equation turns into negative 5 is equal to 5 over 4 plus b. Let's subtract 5 over 4 from each side. We have negative 5 minus 5 over 4 equals b. In order to do subtraction, we will have to write the whole number over 1 and do a fraction subtraction where we would have to find a common denominator. In this case, multiply this one by 4, multiply the numerator by 4 as well. We will end up with negative 20 over 4 minus 5 over 4 is equal to b value. It turns out that our b value is equal to negative 20 minus 5 is negative 25 over 4 is equal to b. Now, this would be a very hard graph if you want to find b is equal to negative 25 over 4. It's a little bit less than 5, a little bit less than negative 5. So we have found two components we were looking for, m and b. Now I can write my final equation. Y is equal to 1/8 x minus 25 over 4. Without algebraic steps, we won't be able to find this equation accurately by just relying on a graph. Here is our next example. When I see m is equal to 0, this kind of reminds me a Hoy case where we have a special case. We will end up with a horizontal line, 0 slope, and y is equal to a number is going to be the equation of the line. I know this line passes through this point, and y value at this point is 8, so equation is going to be 8. But let's confirm that with our y is equal to mx plus b style as well. And if I put my slope, y is equal to 0 times x plus b, and I'll use this point in here when y is 8, 0 times x plus b, and x I'm going to put -6 for the x value. Let's substitute everything anyway. Since it's multiplied by 0, it's not going to make any difference. Then we will have 8 is equal to b value, and I can write my equation as y is equal to 0x plus 8, which will be essentially y is equal to 8. So when we have a Hoy case, horizontal line, 0 slope, equation of the line is going to be y is equal to the y value, 8. Here's our last example of this style. I'll have my y is equal to -1/4 x plus b. This is my equation halfway. I substitute m value already. This is x value, y value. Let's put that into the equation. We will have -1 is equal to -1/4 times 20 plus b. And we can find 1/4 of 20, which is 5. I'll have -1 is equal to -5 plus b. Add 5 to each side. Then b is equal to +4. Once you find the b, we can rewrite equation in y is equal to -1/4 x plus 4 as our final answer. We have a different style on this question, but before we start on this one, let me tell you a joke. What do you get when you cross a math teacher with a crab? You get snippy answers. Let's look at our new style here. On this style, we have not given the slope, and we need a slope and the y-intercept to figure out our equation. First goal is to be finding the slope. Since we were given 2 points, I'll call this x1, y1, x2, y2. We are going to use the slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 to figure out the slope. So here's our slope, -20 minus -17 divided by 17 minus 16. Which will be equal to, subtracting a negative is addition. So -20 plus 17 divided by 1 will be equal to -3. Once we find our slope, now we can write the equation halfway. Y is equal to -3x plus b. We still don't know what b is. We will be able to figure out the b value by using either one of the points. I can use 16 and 17. It really doesn't matter which one to use. And if you must choose a point, try to choose a smaller number and a point with less negatives. So it will reduce the chance of error. If I substitute -17 for y and x is supposed to be 16, this will allow us to find the b value. -17 is equal to -48 plus b. Let's add 48 to each side. Then b value is equal to +31. Since we now have the b value, we can put that into the original equation here. We will have y is equal to -3x plus 31 as our final answer. To recap, we would look at the 2 points and figure out the slope by using the 2 points. After finding the slope, we write the equation halfway. Then we try to find the b value by using either one of the given points. Once you find the b value, we finalize our equation. Here's our next example. We would start with the slope formula. Write your slope formula first, and then identify your points x1, y1, x2, y2. Find your slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Be careful when subtracting a negative, convert that to a positive. It's okay to write multiple steps, so you will reduce the chance of error. And negative 7 plus 9 is 2, negative 7 plus 14 is 7. We found our slope as 2 over 7. I can write my equation in halfway. 2 over 7, y is equal to mx plus b. We don't know the b value, so we will just choose a point to find the b value. I'll choose the point with smaller numbers. I'm going to choose 7 and negative 7 and negative 7. When y is negative 7, x must have been also negative 7. We will do a multiplication and simplification here. We will have negative 7 is equal to negative 2 plus b. Add 2 to each side. 5 is equal to b. Now I can write my equation. Y is equal to 2 over 7x plus 5. Just to clarify what has happened here, we did 2 over 7 times negative 7 over 1, which is equal to negative 14 over 7, which is equal to negative 2. Right here. Here's our next example. I've already labeled my x1, y1, x2, y2. I wrote my slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Then did my subtraction, 14 minus negative 6, 7 minus 3. Next, subtraction of a negative turns into positive. I write that as my next step. 7 minus 3 was 4. This will turn into 20 over 4, which is equal to 5. Once we find our slope, we can write the equation halfway. Y is equal to 5x plus b. B value can be found by using either one of the points. I'm going to use the positive value, so I'll have less chance of error. 14 is equal to 5 times 7 plus b. 14 is equal to 35 plus b. I'll have to subtract 35 from each side. Then b value will be negative 21. Now we can finalize our equation. Y is equal to 5x minus 21. Here's our last example of this type. I want to show you a special case, so I want to change this example to 6, negative 5, and 6, 6. So this is our x1, y1, x2, y2. I made this change so I can show you a different style. If I write my slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, we will end up with 6 minus negative 5 divided by 6 minus 6. This will give us 11 over 0. A number divided by 0 is undefined. Now, because this is undefined, I won't be able to put that in y is equal to mx plus b because slope is undefined. So when we see slope is undefined, we're automatically going to think of the Vox case. According to Vox case, we're going to end up with a vertical line where slope is undefined, and equation of the line is going to be x is equal to a number, in this case an x value. And the x values here are same, both 6, so equation is x is equal to 6. This is how I would take care of a special case. If it turns out to be an undefined slope, I apply my Vox case. If it turns out to be a 0 slope, then I would have applied my Hoy case. In a Hoy case, you would look at the y values. One hint for these type of questions, special type of questions, is that if you end up with x is same, you have a Vox case where x is equal to that number is going to be your equation. If you end up with the y values same, that means you have a 0 slope Hoy case where equation is going to be y is equal to that number. Here's our first use try. And second you try, use the given points to find the slope on number 2. Here's our third and fourth you tries. You can use this point and this point. That's pretty much it. If you have any questions, please bring it to class. Ignore this one, it's kind of missing a part. Oh, it's not missing a part. This is 1, -1. You can use this as an extra example.